Have you ever been told migraine is all in your head and been like, ugh? Yeah, I've been there too. I have to tell you, they're not entirely wrong in telling you that. What's so frustrating is they never tell you what to do about it except try to pop pills or get poked or have some sort of procedure that ends up failing 9 times out of 10 because you'll continue with migraines. So today I'm going to tell you how you can actually dissolve a migraine in 30 minutes or less. My name is Kai. I'm a neurosensory focused integrative physical therapist and trauma sensitive coach. And today, here in the collective, you joined us, and I'm so glad you're here because we are beating the system, breaking cycles, and we are busting migraines. This is part one. There's 3 parts to how to dissolve a migraine. So make sure you stay to the end because that's when I show you how to do it exactly. The first one is going to be breath. This is going to be number 1. This is today. The next part's going to be authority. Oops. 2. That's a 2. And the last one is going to be declaration. So that's going to be number 3. All 3 of these parts are how one dissolves a migraine. If you do one without the 3, it doesn't work. Migraine is a mind-body phenomenon, meaning it involves your mind and it involves your body. Migraine is a neuroplastic pain, which is giving rise to when they say migraine is all in your head, they're not entirely wrong because it is a neuroplastic pain, meaning it comes from your brain. This one deals with the body the most. Authority and declaration deal with the mind and the body. So today we're going to start with basically the foundation. In life, we can do 3 things. We can do, we can have, or we can be. In dissolving a migraine, it's not so much what you do, and it's not so much what you have. It's all about who you are, your state of being. We are human beings. We are not human doings. We're not human havings. This is one of the main shifts that needs to take place with migraine. The mindset that we're taught in the medical community, it's all about what you do. Do you get the ice pack to try to stop the inflammation? Do you take the pill as soon as the onset arises to stop the migraine? So we think of it like when you have a fire, what do? You call 911 and the fire truck does something with a fire hose to put out the fire, correct? It's like if you don't have water, you can't put out the fire. That's how we're taught to think of how to relate to migraine and how to dissolve it. It's like if you don't have any money, you can't buy a house. So a lot of times people with they think, oh, I have to have my pills. I need to have my Cephalene, my ice pack. And all of these things we've been drilled to believe that you need to do or have, but really it's all about being. What is your state of being? Now, I'm going to show you a similar way. So if you know anybody in the bodybuilding world or understand the bodybuilding concept, we think when we see a bodybuilder, somebody that's really cut and ripped and jacked, we're like, oh yeah, they must go to the gym all the time and pump a lot of iron, right? They must look at 80% what they do in the gym and 20% what they eat. That's how they look like that. But every bodybuilder, especially those who have ever competed in bodybuilding, they will tell you, it's 20% what you do in the gym, and it's 80% how you eat, how you look to be a bodybuilder, how you get that physique. Healing from migraine, dissolving it. And this is the beginning. We start to abort it this way. There's so many things that you are building upon in your nervous system that will help you prevent them in the future so that they don't come anymore. 20% what you do or have, and it's 80% who you are, your state of being. Nobody's going to tell you this with dealing with migraines, but here I am. I'm telling you everything, and I'm going to show you here and now. Woo, woo, woo. The first thing we got to do is look at your timeline. Timelines are really important when you're wanting to bust a migraine. If you want to know why you have migraines in general, you have to look at your timeline. So look at the age you first came down with migraine, when you first were attacked with migraine, right? Look at what age you were, look at what life circumstance you were dealing with, and look back 0 to 3 years and look at what significant emotional experiences you had to deal with and that were most likely overwhelming and where you didn't have the emotional support that you needed when you were going through that, what we call SEE. It's a C, it's a significant emotional experience. For me, it was closer to 4 years. That's for another video. Get into that another time. But for the actual migraine attack that you're dealing with, so let's say you just came down with an attack, how to look at the timeline is you go back 0 to 3 days or 0 to 72 hours. Here's the attack that took place on your timeline. You got to go back 0 to 72 hours. And then you will find somewhere along the way, let's say it's right here, that took place, where you were dealing with, your body had to contend with something stressful. And you see, this is where it gets, you have to really be able to be introspective and look inside and not be afraid of what you see. And it's important when you do this to go out of your head and into your body. This is the opposite of migraineurs. They love to stay in their head and avoid the body, avoid what they're feeling, avoid all of those signs that the body gives that it's getting stressed or becoming anxious. Okay, so I'm like a music junkie. I'm also a movie junkie. And so all in my program, I have scenes from different movies and shows and also parts of music. So for my healing, I loved to, in order to begin understanding how much I got to get out of my head and into my body, John Bon Jovi helped me. So if you know this song, darling, you give love a bad name. Shot through the heart and you're to blame, darling, you give love a bad name. Okay, we know that song, right? Forgive my singing. Into my heart and out of my head, darling, you get love and not shame. And in a second, I'm going to talk about shame. But I just wanted to give you that. Into my heart and out of my head, darling, you get love and not shame. All of these things I would do like in the shower, washing my hair, driving, randomly, and I would repeat them because I had to change how I related to myself and the world around me. And that's the ultimate secret to healing from migraine. Going back to the last 0 to 3 days, 0 to 72 hours, look back because there came a point in time when you self-abandoned, disconnected, dissociated is how the psych world will say. You self-abandon as a protective mechanism, and migraine in all its glory came to you right here to help protect and keep you safe emotionally from the overwhelm that you were trying to run away from, avoid, dismiss, deny, ignore. And that's why you self abandon. Why do we self abandon? Well, we do so because we're trying to ward off a feeling that sometime, some way in our past, we registered that. We learned that that feeling or that emotion was super overwhelming, that if I felt that emotion, I would lose control. And who knows what happens if I was to lose control. You were shamed, ridiculed, or criticized for looking like you were feeling that emotion or behaving like you were feeling that emotion. They are shame, guilt, but the big ones that we really try to ward off, and we do so in such a hidden way that we ourselves don't even know we're doing it because we're so conditioned and programmed to do this. These are the big ones: sadness, and we can call this grief also. And then the other one is anger. Ooh, this is a big one with migrainers. Oh, suppressed rage, anger, frustration, annoyance, whatever you want to call it. And for whatever reason, when you were growing up, most likely, when you experienced or showed one of these or behaved like you were feeling one of these, you were shamed, you were criticized, you were made to feel guilty, you felt rejection, and you felt humiliation often also. These emotions are connected to these feelings. You do everything you can to shut that down and to run away from that and to make it go away. That's how you disconnect and dissociate from what I call emotional flashbacks that were your body registered as danger. It's not safe. And so what does migraine do? We got to protect her from that. She can't protect herself. She was in an unsafe environment for so long. This is how the body learned to try to help you. First things you're going to do when you are going to dissolve a migraine in 30 minutes or less is you got to excuse yourself in that very moment. Okay. So I'm going to go with my experience, my personal experience. I, for 22 years, suffered with migraine with aura. That means that I would get all these crazy white lights, like just in just all of a sudden, out of nowhere. I'd get all these flashy white lights. And yes, I would say, oh, it must have been something I smelled. It must have been the bright lights, yada, yada. But anyway, so I would get these bright lights and I would have 30 minutes of seeing these bright lights, like all these patches. I would start with the nausea. I would get lightheaded. I would feel kind of dizzy. I would feel a lot of fatigue. That would be for 30 minutes. At usually right at that 30-minute mark aroundish, then the migraine would slam on. And that was the knife at the top of the head coming through the right eye, through the back of the head. Then the nausea would increase, the fatigue, the shaky feeling, brain fog that like takes you over would slam for 8 hours every time. And I work with women, and whatever kind of migraine they have, they can do this in 30 minutes if they do all three parts. People that I help are migraine with aura, migraine without aura, vestibular migraines, and hemiplegic migraines. Have a seat somewhere. So what I would do is I would go into my car, if that's the only place I could go to be by myself, or I would excuse myself and go into the bathroom. And so if I'm in my car, I'm gonna close my eyes, like remove myself from everything and everybody around me. If I'm in the bathroom, I'm gonna see if I can turn the lights out. If I can, I'm gonna turn the lights out because it's better. And I'm just gonna sit down. Or I'll just close down the toilet and sit on the toilet. So you just found a seat. S stands for sensations. E stands for emotions. A stands for attitude. And T stands for tolerance. Those two have a lot to do with the body, and these two have a lot to do with the mind. These two we're going to do for part 2 and 3. These we're going to do for part 2 and 3. These two we're going to do for today, part 1. I was telling you, you sit down in a dark place, you're all by yourself, and it's crucial that you do this, because usually we're like, I can't leave where I am right now. What is everybody going to think of me? That's where you have to put your needs, your well-being first, and you need to understand that they won't die if you excuse yourself for a half hour. That's probably the hardest thing to do, because everybody doesn't want to put everybody out by removing themselves for half an hour, but this is what it takes. So if you're willing to put your needs first, your well-being first, you will be successful in this. Remove yourself, find yourself in your car or in the bathroom. You can explain later. If they care about you, they'll just wait for you. If it's your work, you got to do what you got to do. Going back to your timeline, 0 to 72 hours, these sensations that you're experiencing in your body, okay? In my program, I use the Beck's anxiety scale. I help you to become really familiar with what sensations you felt in your body over the last 0 to 72 hours that you may have shoved away or ignored or denied or didn't even notice. I call it the BBB, right? The Better Business Bureau. But yeah, when we're trying to deal with sensations, we're dealing with the base of the skull. We're dealing with the breath. And we're dealing with the belly. Depending on you and how you deal with the anxious feeling that comes upon your body. Some other examples that I use from the Beck's anxiety, there's a whole long list and you get to read it, but it's like, are you feeling hot and sweaty? Are you unable to relax? Do you feel some sort of dizziness or lightheadedness? Do you have racing thoughts? Do you feel fear, terrified for some reason you don't even know, or you just feel nervous? Do you feel this tightening in your throat where it's almost like you kind of feel like you're choking in a way, or have something in your throat? Do you get that trembling feeling a little bit? Or do you just notice you haven't slept well in the last 3 days? Do you have a deep inner feeling that you're going to lose control? Do you get indigestion, tummy trouble? Does your face become flushed, warm? Or do you get a stabbing, shooting pain that's often around the ribs because it has to deal with the breath? So it could be anywhere on the front side, sides, or even between your blades. The belly, especially with indigestion or cramping or bloatingness, tightening feeling, all of these things, if you've been programmed with migraine, it's a real skill set to be able to do this. And it's the second phase of my program, internal listening, developing the skill to be able to listen internally to what's going on with these sensations. Because this is the beginning of what they call a migraine, the prodrome. But people are not understanding how important it is to catch these when they happen, because this is how you prevent migraine from happening. When you can shift your state, because when you're in a doing state or a having state, it's anxiety. It can be, I should say. It's more prone to be. When you can shift into the being state, that's prone to be more what we call parasympathetic. It's more balanced, it's more relaxed, it's calm, it's centered, it's grounded. So that's why this is so important. Remember, stay to the end, because we're going to use this as the main culprit to shift you out of the doing and having state and into the being state, and to shift you out of where anxiety is creeping up and about to take over. Because when anxiety takes over, when overwhelm takes over, or when shutdown takes over, because you can have migraines in different ways, that's when the migraine comes. You're trying to ward off an emotion. When you get a migraine, it happens 0 to 72 hours before you were surviving. That's why you did it. That's how you learned to survive. Migraine is a stress response, survival response. So sympathetic being the fight, flight, freeze, fawn state, stressed. And they talk about it being the tiger running after you, right? The tiger chasing you. That's how the stress response was first developed, or why it was developed, right? To get you out of danger. Danger is coming at you. The saber-toothed tiger is coming right for you, chasing you down. And that's why all these changes happen in your body to give you unbelievable power to get away in a split second. It's the same thing in nowadays, like when you slam on your brake in traffic, like in that split second, that was like a fight, flight, like how fast your foot went to that. And like you feel the heart racing and all of that. It's really hard for migraineurs sometimes to wrap their head around that, because they're like, I'm just in freaking pain all the time. Like, I'm not running from any tiger. What the hell? This is how I like to explain it. My family, 10 years, they spent trying to sell their house, the house I grew up in. For many years, we would get these calls like from the realtor. Oh, I have somebody coming in the house. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Okay. And then they would hang up, and it would just be pure pandemonium. Because when you got a house with 3 kids and everybody's running around and it's all this whatever, it's like stressful, right? When the realtor's going to be there in 30 minutes, you got to wash the dishes, you got to clean the bathroom, you got to pick up all the toys, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? So I like to explain it as that kind of stress. Like nobody's coming to chase after you, but you have this looming, I have to, I need to, I got to, I should. If I want to sell this damn house, I better whoop, 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 and like stress everybody out and get everything accomplished. The driving force behind that is I have to, I need to, I ought to, I should, I got to. There's no tiger chasing you. It's not life or death, but you have this urgency, this hypervigilance, this like alertness, this alarm going off. I have to, I need to, I ought to, I got to. That kind of stress response is what's driving your need to ward off an emotion. And you might not even realize you've done this, because especially those that have dealt with emotional neglect growing up, it's not what happened to you that's the most horrible thing rooting you in this. It's what you needed and you didn't get. It's the emotional support and being able to learn how to regulate your emotions and how every emotion is welcome. And in those younger years, you didn't have somebody to show you how to regulate through all these different emotions that are normal to every human being. The people you grew up with, if they were taught certain things, like you don't cry and show emotions because then you're losing control. Situation for a girl, she was taught it's a sign of weakness, and she should feel shame if she's about to cry. That's what her dad taught her, because it's the way he was taught. And she loved her dad and she was very close to her dad, but this was programmed to her. She learned to criticize herself, and he would say, quote unquote, control yourself all the time. And he had this high standard for himself. And he would even say, because if you lose control, you let everybody else know how you feel. And that was like a big no-no. And so she learned that as a big no-no. And I'm going to get to that story more in part 2, so stay for that. That's why she would ward off a lot of feelings. How do you ward off these feelings? That might be sadness or it might be anger. And know that whenever it's like suppressed rage or anger that you're trying to ward off, if you go deeper, it's always underlying sadness. Some of the ways that we use defenses to ward off emotions that feel overwhelming. People, they might smile and it's not really a situation to smile or laugh or giggle, but that's what they do as a defense, to ward off a feeling, or talk really fast. Have you ever met those people? They like talk a lot and or talk really fast. These are all defense mechanisms that they're using to ward off an emotions. Put in the description, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a link to a defenses checklist just to see what defenses you use. Because in my program, I teach these things. So some people, you notice they avoid eye contact. They're avoiding an emotion. They're avoiding a feeling. Jokes and sarcasm, same thing. They're trying to ward off an emotion. Some people they're really big on, jump up and take care of everybody's needs around them, especially for migrainers, for us women, right? We're the caretakers, we're the nurturers, we're the ones who run the household, we're the one that makes sure everybody's okay, but nobody's looking to make sure we're okay a lot of the times. You beat yourself up. And I haven't gone into a whole video, but the harsh inner critic is a defense mechanism you have used to ward off a certain emotion. You're programmed, conditioned, and groomed that way because you were really angry at what was happening or what they were saying or doing that was an injustice, or a boundary was broken. And that's why anger is actually a healthy response. But because that wasn't safe in the environment you grew up and were raised in or familiar with, you learned, let me beat myself up instead. Let me turn all of that anger, frustration, upsetness inwards, because then I can do something about it and I have control over it. If I just turn it and blame myself, because it wasn't safe to express a different opinion about what's happening, or it wasn't permitted for you to enforce your own boundaries growing up. And this is one that I was really good at, was remaining certain instead of allowing doubt or questions to come about. Especially if you had a really dominating, controlling household that you grew up in, and you didn't allow yourself to doubt or question because it wasn't safe, and you were going to be severely punished, criticized, judged, deny or pretend it's not real. That's a survival response a lot of times to trauma. And people are so good at it, they don't even know they're doing it. Emotion that you're warding off with these defenses actually experiences that your body is yearning to feel, and you're not allowing it. So do you see how that creates a rigidity? It creates a closed off. It creates a wall. It creates what we call in PT tone. Rigor mortis is like a lot of tone and a lot of rigidity. But the same thing can happen due to our nervous system holding tension. Is you can increase tone, you increase tension. And that tone is a frozen state. There's no flow, there's no fluidity, there's no feeling, it's rigidity, it's tone, it's tension, it's tight. And you need a lot of this to bring you to the point of a migraine attack. You can only create a migraine when you are in a state of sympathetic dominance. You cannot have a migraine if you are balanced. It's physically impossible for the body to create a migraine. Here we are. You've gone into the bathroom, or you've gone into your car, you've gone into your room, someplace you can be by yourself, and for 30 minutes, you're going to do the physiological sigh. The physiological sigh is taking one deep breath in through the nose until you can't suck in any more air. And then you're going to take one final sip of air, and then you're going to let it all out of your mouth. Let's do it once together. You're going to inhale. Take a final sip. Let it all out. That's an example of one physiological sigh. So inhale through your nose. When you can't take in any more air, do a final sip through the nose, and then let it all out through the mouth. Until you have no more air. When you are in this heightened sympathetic dominant state, which is you've just erupted with a migraine, within the first few seconds, this is when you want to start doing this. If you wait 10 or 15 minutes, too late. Migraine's already kind of like, it's already too far gone. Right when you get whatever symptom you get when you know a migraine is hitting, this is when you start this. When you start this, you're going to notice your exhales are really shallow, because that's what happens with your breath when you get into sympathetic dominance. You go into paradoxical breathing. Shoulders raise, your neck muscles get all involved. You're not using your diaphragm, you're all in your chest, and you're doing really shallow, quick breaths, and it's fast. You don't even know you're doing it. Anxious, anxiety, that state. Neuroscience points to the number one fastest way to get out of sympathetic dominance is the physiological sigh, hands down. So that's why we use this. And as you repeat the physiological sigh, you will notice your exhales become longer and longer and longer. You are slowly shifting into the parasympathetic state. You are slowly shifting the neurotransmitters. You're bringing your breath out of paradoxical breathing, become more of a coordinated breathing pattern. Okay, so this goes beyond diaphragmatic breathing. There's a time and place for that, and I love diaphragmatic breathing, but this is emergency. This is like alarm. We're trying to kill a migraine here. We're trying to dissolve it, stop it, abort it. So we do the physiological sigh, and you're going to repeat this. We do it for 30 minutes. And then, like maybe halfway through, I would open my eyes and just be aware of, okay, where's the aura? How's the aura? And it's starting to go down. You'll notice as you exhale, those shoulders drop out of your ears. That's when I would then go, okay, I can keep going. And I would continue until it's dissolved. And it's within the 30-minute window that it's dissolved completely. You know, hydration and how important that is, and drinking half your body weight in ounces every day. That was something that I would bring into my bathroom or car or whatever. I'd make sure I had my water with me. And if I hadn't eaten in a whole long time, I make sure I had a little snack with me that I took. Part 2 and part 3, we're going to talk about how authority and declaration are going to be used during this 30-minute window to dissolve the migraine. Don't forget, in the description, get the link for the defense checklist. See what you do to try to defend and ward off, okay? If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, I want to hear it in the comment section. Let me know what you took from it, how this helped. But like I said, don't even try to dissolve a migraine if you don't listen to part 2 and part 3, because they're just as important, okay? I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.